tweet is, so you don't run into problems with it being too long. Because again, you're stuck at 140 characters. So once you get one person's spreadsheet put together, one person's set of tweets, then you have to get back together with everybody else using your Google group or however you're communicating and put everything into one big master spreadsheet. It doesn't have to be done that way. You could kind of load everything separately. The benefit to putting it all in one big master spreadsheet is then you can kind of coordinate a little bit in making sure that the times line up. Sometimes things are pretty vague, like, woke up in the morning to, because the guard shot at an Indian that was sneaking up on the camp. Well, what time was that? I don't know. It could have been 4 a.m., could have been 8 a.m. We kind of have to guess. But if everybody says, a different time over about a 12-hour period, then it kind of gets a little bit weird. And so it's nice to coordinate just a little bit to make sure that somebody doesn't ruin the surprise of what somebody else is going to say is going to happen. And then once everything looks like it's all in order, then it's just a matter of basically putting it out there. And so what we used is a couple applications, and we've tried a couple different things to pre-program the tweets. And there's a few different, as popular as Twitter is, everybody's kind of got some applications based on the Twitter APIs and everything. And so there's a few programs that we found that you can load your messages in beforehand, copy and paste them in, set the time you want them to go. When we started with Gettysburg, we didn't have this last step, and Marion and I were, literally, like all day long, we had to be loading tweets in because we went to the web interface and put it in there and posted it right then so that it would go at the correct time. That meant 6 a.m. just as much as, middle of the morning, and you're supposed to be in class, and you're like doing whatever. And so that was a little bit frustrating. And so loading stuff into another program actually helped quite a bit. Part of there was a grant that was received within this past year that is going towards helping to develop a database and stuff that will be hosted on the TwHistory.org website. And so instead of relying on other people and hoping that their software will do what we need it to do, it'll all be within the TwHistory framework. And so you'd be able to log into there, load all the tweets in, right out of a spreadsheet, just upload the whole spreadsheet. It'll just go right in there, archive everything automatically. The goal eventually, is to archive all this stuff and have a whole ton of these reenactments that could actually be replayed. Gettysburg, took 3 or 4 months for the whole thing to unfold as everybody marched from all their different locations and ended up at the battlefield. But, say you've only got a month to study the Civil War or something. Hopefully the idea would be make this so that you could set a start and an end time, and it would compress the reenactment so it could go a little quicker pace. You'd lose a little bit of the time factor, but it would fit into the time that you have scheduled. Those of you that teach, especially in public education, would appreciate that, I'm sure. And then, so just a few examples up here, and we've talked about those to some extent. Some of the stuff we've been doing. The Titanic one I mentioned isn't up here because it wasn't really a full-on reenactment. We did it at another conference and did a little workshop. We only did about 3 or 4 hours worth of it. There was quite a bit more that happened, and we only did 4 or 5 characters. It was still really interesting, but like I mentioned before, what year did the Titanic sink? You guys remember? 1912. That means we're coming up on 2012, and so there's the hope that for that 100th anniversary we could do something quite a bit bigger that would include a lot more characters and have a little bit more comprehensive set of not just a 3-hour time period, but a little bit more about what happened.
And actually, just to build on that a little bit, Rob mentioned that with the Titanic 100th anniversary coming up, One of the things that we did recently was we put in an idea into this Pepsi Refresh Everything Challenge, and it's pretty exciting. We'll pull up the webpage maybe at the end, but actually the way that works is people submit. I think there's 1,000 ideas per month that get submitted. Total, it ends up being around 1,100 ideas once you count some of the carryover from the months before, and then everyone just votes on the ideas that sound the best or that deserve funding according to the masses or whatever. And actually, right now, the TwHistory idea is currently ranked 7th, and so the top 10 ideas will receive $25,000 in funding, which is really exciting because it means that we can do that reenactment. We're actually going to develop some curriculum around it and kind of aim it at the classroom more. But then also at the same time, we'll have an example reenactment that's really robust, that is done to a pretty high standard, and I think we're going to focus on the Titanic for that one, just because it fits so well. But just to give you an idea, I mean, it's really exciting because not just for the funding. There has the other grant that we have already received was from the Talus Open Education Incubator, and the Talus Foundation is based in the UK, and they awarded us about $11,000 to work on the website and to create we're basically going to create a system that's a lot easier, that you don't have to use all these like cobbled together tools like we've done in the past, and certainly you don't have to be like we were at the beginning, like Rob was describing, sitting there at the computer tweeting when you had to, when it was supposed to have happened. You'll be able to schedule things and reuse things and import, export, and that kind of thing. One really exciting development that I don't think we've shared before in public is just that we've been contacted by the National Archives of the United Kingdom, and they have been doing a year-long Twitter reenactment that is they've been doing basically the War Cabinet from I think it was 1942, and basically Winston Churchill and a lot of the people in the cabinet at that time. It's based on a lot of the artifacts that they have at the UK National Archives, and it's exciting because they're interested in basically handing that over to us, and we would import that into our system, and people would be able to access it, change it, update it. Continue to do maybe 1843. The person who's working on it right now is exhausted, so I don't think he's going to do another year. But he's interested in putting it out there and sharing it with others, and that's kind of the idea here. Just to mention one thing about the motivation, because I've kept thinking about the question of audience, and I think that is a very important question. I think that sustainability of a project like this is based on knowing who your primary audience is. We're working on a focus on secondary education, and because we think it's exciting for students to be able to interact with history in this way. It is one of those things, kind of like open source software. You build something with a particular audience in mind, and then you just put it out there, and if other people see benefit to it, then more power to them, and that's exciting to see it be reused in other ways by hobbyists or by other groups. And that's kind of the approach we're taking, is we want it to be open in the sense that we'll develop it with the idea that it could be used in a more formal learning setting, but then there are all these other ways that it could be reused, and as long as we kind of are aiming towards an audience where we feel like we can be successful, then if other things kind of flourish, then it's just all the better. So just to finish up with future directions.